Following the evacuation of our troops from Dunkirk in 1940 and the imminent invasion of Nazi Germany, it was decided to build a system of static defensive lines across Britain to protect London and the heartland, the industrial heartland of the country. So all in all, some 50 defensive lines were constructed. The GHQ lines, the General Headquarters lines, were the longest and considered to be the most important stop lines and probably our last line of defence. So today I'm going to be walking a relatively short section of the stop line blue from Semington to Devizes in Wiltshire. The stop line blue, or the blue stop line in its entirety, ran from Bradford on Avon in Wiltshire to Reading in Berkshire. Along its route, various defensive positions were constructed to defend against a marauding German army. These consisted of pillboxes, anti-tank positions, anti-tank obstacles on roads and bridges, etc. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. So buckle up, make a cup of tea, grab your favourite biscuits, and join me, Andrew Vidler, on another Walking Wild adventure. So I'm standing now on Semington Aqueduct, the old Semington Aqueduct. Now this is where the Kennet and Avon Canal there crosses over the very swollen Semington Brook. We've had a tremendous amount of rain in the last 24 hours, well in the last month in fact, and that's why it's so swollen. But I've walked this section many times and looked over the edge here and seen these two, what appears to be random cylinders, concrete cylinders with dome tops. Now they are in fact anti-tank cylinders. So at some stage they would have been on top of the bridge here, probably both sides of the bridge. So they were designed to be movable obstructions, so that they could be moved into locations such as bridges and roads as and when needed. So to move them, they probably would have had some sort of lifting eyes, probably cast into the dome tops, so they could be moved with whatever equipment they had at the time, a tank or whatever. Also, those lifting eyes served another purpose. Barbed wire could be strung between the defensive cylinders, and making for a very strong defensive position. So that's our first discovery of the day: anti-tank cylinders. So these cylinders were probably moved down there, post-war, and that's where they've been for the last, nearly 80 years. And unless someone decides to move them for any strange reason, that's where they're going to stay. So I'll put a what three words location for these cylinders and all the other discoveries we find along the way. You'll find the what three words locations in the video description below, so you can discover these places for yourself. So, less talking, more walking. Let's go. So the whole purpose of the stop line, by definition, was exactly that: to stop the enemy, or halt the enemy, literally in its tracks, long enough for more mobile forces to counter-attack. I mentioned earlier in the video that the stop lines were actually constructed. Fortunately, most of the construction was either done by nature or man-made, as in the Kennet and Avon Canal. And the River Avon formed part of the blue stop line as well, so a natural defensive line. Along the entire length of the Kennet and Avon Canal and the River Avon, defensive positions were constructed. So these consisted of pillboxes. These pillboxes at the time were designed to be manned by members of the Home Guard, or Dad's Army as we affectionately know them from the TV. Also there were anti-tank gun emplacements, and as we looked at earlier, some of the movable defensive anti-tank defences that could be positioned on roads and bridges. So we're at our next location now. So in the corner of this wood, known locally as Giles Wood, there should be a Type 22 shell-proof pillbox. So let's take a look. And there we have it, our first Type 22 shell-proof pillbox. Let's take a closer look. The actual pillbox itself is constructed from reinforced concrete, hexagonal in shape. So on every section there is a loophole, as you can see here, a firing position. So each loophole would have a certain field of fire that it could cover 360 degrees. Now I've already taken a look inside. It's not particularly nice in there. It's in good condition, but as in all these pillboxes, they're just not respected for all kinds of detritus and rubbish. So I'll go in there with a camera that is probably not light enough for my GoPro to pick up any much detail, but let's have a look and see what we can see. So I'm using my camera torch to put a little bit of light on the subject. And these are in fact the loophole positions from inside. So I'm not quite certain what kind of weaponry the guys would have had. Probably only an Army Service 303 rifle. They may have had, they may have been lucky enough to have a Bren gun. You can imagine coming into one of these, probably knowing in your heart of hearts that unless you were taken prisoner, the chances of survival were probably quite slim against a well-equipped and battle-hardened German army. So again, I'll put a what 3 words location in the description below. So that's our first Type 22 shell-proof pillbox. Let's move on. So literally a few hundred yards from the one in Giles Wood, walking east towards Devizes, there are 2 more Type 22 pillboxes, one of which is there, and the next one is another 100 yards further down the path here. So further east, a few hundred metres east, there's another Type 22 pillbox. Now this is pretty well hidden, as you can see. I'm standing in the field adjacent to the canal path, and it is extremely overgrown. I believe the entrance is down in there, but you're not going to get to it. So again, this one is virtually invisible from the canal path unless you know it's there. So another Type 22 shell-proof pillbox. Let's move on. So the sun has decided to grace us with its presence today. So a little brief potted history for you. On the 10th of May 1940, Nazi Germany invaded France and the Low Countries, pushing the British Expeditionary Force, the BEF, French and Belgian armies back to the beaches of Dunkirk. So a huge evacuation operation, codenamed Operation Dynamo, was put in place, known then as it is today as the Miracle of Dunkirk. So we've reached a seamed bottom lock. I've just walked off of the canal path, and as you can see, literally there in full view, not disguised this one, another Type 22 shell-proof pillbox. As was the other ones we've looked inside, not very well respected, full of rubbish and crap basically. The actual pillbox itself is in, as you can see, in very good condition. So come a little bit further down from seen bottom lock, and this one is actually a Type 28A anti-tank gun emplacement. So here, where it's been bricked up, would have been where the weapon would have been wheeled in and wheeled out, or the artillery piece, and over there is the firing position. And as with all the other positions we've looked in today, totally disrespected by the public, full of crap. So I understand English Heritage are responsible. We'll say responsible, or they own or look after, well, certainly don't look after them, but they own these pillboxes and anti-tank gun emplacements. So if you're watching English Heritage, at least clean them out, or at least repurpose them in some way. But leaving them like this is not good. So if you walk back onto the towpath, this bridge here, this crosses the Kennet and Avon Canal, and I've walked across this bridge many times over the years on my way to the lovely brewery pub just up the road there. And on the floor, sorry, on the ground, you can see these concrete, well, it just looks like just concrete squares there and there. Now you can see there's like a plug been placed in the top where they've been filled back in. They are actually anti-tank fortifications. So from research, where the hole is, there was a vertical rail, a vertical steel rail protruding from these holes, and probably laced with barbed wire as well. So this bridge is probably not wide enough for a tank to cross, but certainly wide enough for some of the smaller German tracked vehicles that they use and their artillery pieces. And I say I've walked across this a dozen times and never realised what they were. So we've reached a location between Semington and Sells Green, and just looking in the hedge here, because the Canal Trust have recently, well, probably yesterday by the looks of it, cut back some of the undergrowth around the outside. So in there is what's left of a concrete structure. So I believe, from what I can see of it, and there as well, tucked away in there, yeah, definitely. So that was another pillbox location there. Obviously not good condition, but yeah, I've not seen that one before. Moving on. So we're just coming into Sells Green now. I'm sure most of you have walked this section of canal before, would have walked past this particular pillbox. It's well on view. You can see it was constructed from reinforced concrete. I'm saying not in particularly good condition, but very visible. I think it's a Type 22. So we've reached the bottom of Cane Hill Locks, and this is the bridge that takes the road from Cane Hill into Roud. And here, as you walk down from the road to the canal path, a couple of anti-tank cylinders. Probably been here for the last 80 years or so, and hopefully that's where they'll remain. So Cane Hill Locks next. Cane Hill Locks, always a beautiful location. We've reached the end of our walk today at this Type 22 bunker in Devizes. Absolutely brilliant repurposing of the bunker, owned and maintained by the Kennet and Avon Canal Trust. The Devizes Wharf Bat Bunker. Yeah, fantastic. So if you're watching English Heritage, please consider doing something similar to all the remaining pillboxes that fall into your jurisdiction. You'll not only be preserving them for future generations, but also doing a fantastic thing for wildlife. So that has to be a win-win situation, doesn't it? Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and look forward to seeing you on the next Walking Wild adventure.